Yo, Connor, it's time to start the video. Yeah, I'm just gathering my last bit of research data for this video. Yeah, I know, but the people are already here. Oh. Yeah, they're waiting for you to start. Oh. Hello, lovely people, and welcome to the channel where we're all about expanding education into the modern era. I'm Connor McIlveen, designer and education enthusiast, and today we're bringing our PlayStations and our Switches to show and tell to help explain what schools can learn from video games. Let's get into it. There's been this term in the news recently. Gamification that's been making the rounds as a solution for every problem. To put it simply, gamification is applying game design elements and principles into non-game contexts. Think of things like points or badges or leaderboards, or things even more underlying like structures or flow or progression. It's taking those ideas and applying them to stuff outside of the virtual world. Now, this isn't a new idea. In fact, companies have been gamifying their products for decades, trying to keep you engaged and interested. Companies like Apple and Nike have gamified fitness, encouraging you to close your rings each day and rewarding you with badges to show off to your friends when you complete important milestones. Or companies like Duolingo, who took something that's normally a slog, learning a new language, and turned it into an addictive game that breaks down the information into bite-sized chunks that you progress through like levels, leveling up your language skills on your own time. And if you think about it, this just makes sense. We as people love games. They appeal to us on a fundamental subconscious level of our being. They give us huge feelings of accomplishment after we beat a hard boss and give us a level of empowerment and freedom to make our own decisions that sometimes we just don't have in the real world. They let us become fully immersed in different worlds and tap into our primal drive to overcome challenges by working with or competing against others. And they're just fun. They're an enjoyable escape to what is, frankly, a pretty scary world right now. So the real question is more like, why are we not trying to integrate games into everything? Now let's take a second to look at the classrooms of today. Education is in a bit of an engagement crisis right now. School is just boring. Kids are bored. I mean, every single day they do pretty much the same thing for years. And at some point, people just decided that education is not something that changes with the times. We've been teaching the same things, the same ways for decades, while all around us, the world has been changing at an exponential rate. I mean, the web is only 30 years old. Think about that. The internet has fundamentally changed our entire world, let alone basically everyone's jobs. Yet we still follow curriculums created before it was even made. No wonder kids are bored. They don't see a practical application for this knowledge because it isn't presented in a way other than just regurgitating information for tests. And rote memorization, the fundamental building block of education, is basically obsolete now because we all carry one of these. The times that we had to cram as much information into our brains as possible is behind us. Because if we forget it, we can just look it up. Schools also decided along the way to demonize failure. For years, we're trained to fear failure because when you fail a test, that's it. You just fail. When in reality, life is nothing but overcoming failures. You try, and if it doesn't work, you try again. I mean, if you're at a job and you do something and mess up, you don't just stop forever. It still has to be done. So you get up and you try again. You learn from your mistakes and you get better. Why can't education be like that? Why can't you try until you succeed? Why can't you take advantage of the technology we already have today? Why can't learning be fun? The good news is that it can be. Just because it's always been like this doesn't mean it can't change. And what better way to change in the face of this engagement crisis than to look at what's capturing the attention of today's children and adapting that. With that, let's look at some ways that we can gamify education. One of the biggest things is just a mindset change towards an attitude that encourages failure. We need to reframe learning in a way that lets people learn from their mistakes and try again and again until they succeed. No one gets everything right on the first try every single time. Why should they be permanently penalized if they figured out what they did wrong and want to try again? The second big one is teaching in a way that promotes creativity and gives children a chance to express themselves in what they do. One of the biggest reasons that games like Minecraft have become so popular is that they're an open sandbox, letting kids explore however they'd like. Why don't we approach assignments like this? How about instead of a one-size-fits-all rubric, we let them surprise us? Give them a chance for their creativity to shine through. For me, one of the biggest bores in school was always history. It was just all this reading and trying to memorize random people's names and who did what and who shot this guy and why did this guy do something and why is everyone named Charles and there's a queen and stuff. But what if history was taught in an immersive way? What if you could be dropped into a place and actually experience what it was like to be alive then? I mean, how cool would it be to learn about Egypt from the eyes of an Egyptian or Rome from the eyes of a Roman? How much easier would it be to remember something if you were actually there to witness it? Alternatively, you could use this approach to show how what is being taught can actually be applied in the real world. You always hear that classic line, "Why am I learning math? I'm never going to use it in the real world." Well, why not show how math is used in the real world? How about instead of problems on a page, it's a giant fun and immersive interactive experience that takes place in the real world?
Confirm your selection to continue.
One of the big reasons that people get so immersed in class-based games is that it lets us choose to play the way that most suits us. Do you want to be a cool and calculated sniper that picks people off from afar? Or do you want to be a heavy brute that charges in, guns blazing? Neither is wrong, they're just different approaches. Just like in games, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to learning. What some see as going too fast, others see as going too slow. Some people would prefer to just jump in and get going, where others prefer to analyze the situation and come up with their own conclusions. We all learn differently, just like we all play differently. So why not encourage different play styles?
One enemy remaining.
Defenders win.
There we go! Nice work, everyone!
We've seen from studies that kids in today's classrooms have a hard time with motivation. School just isn't a motivating place. And when it is, it's more fear-based motivation than anything. Why not take another page from gaming's book and stoke that competitive drive that's buried deep inside all of us? Games do such a great job with this, with leaderboards and rankings that push us to be better and better. Why not approach school like this? I'm a huge fan of Kahoot, which turns quizzes into game shows, letting kids compete against each other for first place. And that competitive push helps us retain that information better, making it a fun way to review material. On the flip side, another way to promote motivation is through collaboration. So much of school these days is individual based. We do assignments alone, we do projects alone, we take tests alone, when in the real world, it's all about collaboration. Just like in games, companies work in teams to accomplish their goals. So why are we making students do everything alone? Why not group them up into parties to take on the harder challenges together? The final idea in today's video is about rewarding your players. We play games because they give us a sense of accomplishment. When we level up, we have this tangible metric that shows that we're improving. When we do something amazing, we get a badge or an achievement to celebrate it. Why isn't school like this? Why are there no metrics that show us that we're improving? Instead, we have grades which start out at 100 at the beginning of the semester and slowly fall as we progress. Why not approach grades from a bottom-up method? Why don't we encourage mastery through leveling up to 100 instead of making kids live in constant fear that their grades are falling? There you have it, everyone. We've talked about gamification, what's wrong with schools today, and finally introduced 6 ways that schools can learn from video games. But this just scratches the surface of how gamification can be applied to education. There are so many more ideas that we could talk about, but we'll leave it here for today. If there's any big takeaways, it's this. Games and game-based elements don't make learning easier, but they do make it more fun. That is it for this video. If you liked it, I'd love it if you just tapped that little like button. It's free and it helps get this video in front of more people. And if you know someone who'd benefit from seeing this video, you're welcome to share it. I mean, you could anonymously drop it in your 8th grade science teacher's inbox. I won't tell anybody. And if you're really enjoying your time here, you can always hit subscribe and that little bell to stay up to date with what we're doing and get notified when we post the next video. The socials are down here. So is the Discord link, just saying. First 100 people to join will be added to the first club and get all the future private content for free. Just saying. Speaking of more, here's another video you might be interested in. Other than that, I'm Connor McIlveen, and I've got to get back to doing some more research for the next video.